Have you ever looked at a mushroom and thought, if I touch this, will I get in trouble? Today, we're not just talking about if mushrooms can make you sick, per se. We're talking about if mushrooms can land you in a courtroom. How dangerous are the most dangerous mushrooms? There are magic spores that are legal to own, but illegal to grow. Today we are uncovering strange and confusing laws in the mushroom world. What is the most illegal mushroom in the world? I'm gonna figure it out today, and I hope you guys are ready for this deep dive. Let's see how illegal mushrooms can really be. If you are new to my channel, hi, my name is Holly. I made the channel Susrooms. I talk about all things mushrooms over here. I make mushroom trading cards and sticker sets that I do on my mushroom club if you're interested. But today we are going to be talking about some more mushroom related content. So this first section, I really wanted to grasp the types of mushrooms that could potentially be very illegal. In the world of mushrooms, I like to think of different mushrooms as having different jobs and different characters, which is why I make them into characters. There's about 4 different types of mushrooms when you're looking at edibility and toxicity, and those are basically what they sound like. First, we have the hypnotic or psychedelic mushroom type, which is the iconic fly amanita that you would expect whenever you hear the word mushroom. Maybe that's what you're thinking of. Then there are the edible mushrooms. These are the mushrooms that people find in the forest. They forage on purpose and they eat when taking all the right precautions, of course. These are the tasty treats of the forest. But not every character in the mushroom kingdom is friendly. We also have the inedibles. These are the type of mushrooms that are just too yucky to consume, potentially could be toxic, but for the most part are just bitter and gross tasting. And then finally, we have the toxic and deadly mushrooms. These are the mushrooms that will not only make you feel pretty gross, they could potentially end your life. These are the type of mushrooms on my trading cards might be considered the villains, the bad guys. There are plenty of mushrooms that look very innocent and beautiful, like the death cap or the destroying angel, but are extremely toxic and will end your life inevitably. So knowing these 4 different personalities of the mushroom kingdom, psychedelic, hypnotic, inedible, edible, and toxic, we can kind of distinguish which mushrooms could be viewed as illegal in different countries. And why? For the most part, I would say that this video is going to cover the, not the toxic ones, but the ones. The reason for, you can probably guess it, the reason for the illegal undertones of a hypnotic is that they'll freaking get you high. Yeah, I mean, it's basically, and I don't think I can say that word on here, but I think y'all know what I'm talking about. This video is in no way, shape, or form going to be talking about how you can actually have these types of mushrooms for yourself. This is just a precautionary video, deep dive video essay, if you will, on the types of mushrooms that are considered illegal in the world and how illegal these mushrooms are. I will also be talking about the difference between foraging for a certain type of mushroom because it's pretty versus possessing it and using it as a. If you find any of this video interesting or have a question, leave me a comment below and I will respond. If you are a mushroom forager, it is important to know where you are to know what kind of mushrooms you might find. As most edible, inedible, and toxic mushrooms are not considered illegal, these ones are. Federal law calls a psychobin a Schedule 1 substance. There's a couple states that kind of have different rules as opposed to the overall government of the United States, like Colorado and Oregon. They have literal healing centers, which is interesting. I didn't know this. But on the flip side, there are other states like Georgia and Idaho that have made even owning spores a crime. Which, if you don't know what spores are, I will explain it. A spore is essentially just a seed from a mushroom, but it looks a little bit different. A mushroom is a fruiting body of the actual mushroom. Mushrooms can live a long time underground, and the reason you only see them at certain times, maybe after a rain, is because the fruiting body has popped up out of the ground and has decided that conditions are right and it will release its spores. Pretty much every single time that you see a fruiting body, its whole entire purpose is to release more spores and create more of itself in the world. The spores come from underneath the mushroom like this. In most cases, some mushrooms are kind of weird looking, and then they will float off as the mushroom is about to die. So that is what a spore is. Getting back into the legality of these mushrooms though. In Europe and Italy, it is actually considered more so a crime, and you will be fined thousands of dollars for just picking a little bit too much of porcellini, which if you don't know, porcellini are like the most edible mushrooms that you can find. Specifically, France and Italy in Europe, they're just cracking down on mushrooms in general, it seems. But things get really intense when you look at the zero tolerance in some countries. This includes Singapore and Japan. There is a zero tolerance for any kind of mushroom that's psychedelic at all. Yeah, I don't think I can say this on here, but it's basically like, I'm just gonna say all that. Crazy. They don't want you doing none of that. In Singapore, it seems that you can be called someone that moves something into the country just by the weight alone of your bag, which could lead to, yeah. In Japan, even a tiny amount of mushrooms at all can lead to 7 years in prison. Oh, and a lifetime ban from the country. So as you can see, some have healing centers and some put you away forever. This just goes to show that the difference in countries and laws everywhere is completely different. So it's a good idea to know exactly what you're foraging and where you're located. But here's a graph of some of the information that I kind of pulled. Looking at not only the United States, there are several countries that have different types of bans and everything, so it is very interesting. So who is the most wanted mushroom in the world? And I'm not talking about like you want it because it's edible or it's cute or something. I'm talking about the most wanted. Behind bars, it's getting locked away. Who is the most wanted mushroom? And again, just because of YouTube's policies, I'm not going to say all of the words and all of the names, but this type of mushroom seems to be the most wanted. This is the face of the mushroom community. Now, that's a super big buzzword, so I don't even know. Yeah, basically that type of mushroom. To the UN and the US, this tiny mushroom is considered as powerful and harmful as more intense substances. Can I say substances? It's just as dangerous as other types of drugs. And then there's other types of mushrooms that are more gray area, like the fly amanita. This iconic mushroom is probably what you think of whenever you think of a mushroom in general. I also did a trading card and sticker set based on this iconic mushroom, if you want to check that out. This mushroom in the United States is legal for display in 49 states. But as soon as you intend to sell it for any other reason, it becomes extremely illegal. There is another strange case of a mushroom. This is a name of a mushroom, the man on horseback. What? I gotta do a character on that. What the heck is that? Whoa. This mushroom used to be a fine delicacy in Europe, but it has since been linked to a very rare disease where it breaks down muscles. Places like France and Spain have banned it. Again, this is the man on horseback mushroom. What? This definitely creates a bizarre legal paradox where some mushrooms can be legal if they're displayed, but very illegal if they are consumed. This is basically the difference of being a forager, observing, and being considered a criminal. So overall, this random mushroom has been certainly evicted from the kitchen due to this rare muscle breakdown condition. I definitely don't want that because I've got hella muscles. So you may be wondering what category you might fall into. Let's talk about foraging versus possession and their laws. The biggest trap for foragers is understanding the difference between these two. Understanding where you are located in the world and what the laws are about your foraging situation. Foraging laws are all about the land. For example, you can pick mushrooms in national forests and be completely legal and fine, but as soon as you step over into a national park, you are considered a criminal. Which is so crazy because they sound very similar. This is because of preservation laws, specifically in the United States. But for the most part, looking at mushrooms is completely legal until you decide to pick it and have it for yourself. Possession laws do not care about the land, however. Possession laws only care about the identity of the mushroom, and they do not matter what place you found it at all. So if you're holding onto a bag of illegal mushrooms, it doesn't matter where you got it, they are illegal. Laws generally see the chemical inside, not the location from where you foraged. However, there is a spore loophole where certain places allow you to own the spores. They don't allow you to plant them, which I think is interesting. That's kind of weird. But here's a weird twist. Talking about all of these illegal mushrooms, you can certainly have death caps in your possession and be completely legal. Because while these mushrooms can technically kill you, they are not considered a controlled substance. So that just makes them dangerous, not illegal. It's pretty wild to think that some mushrooms in some places can be legal and healing and others can put you away forever. I definitely think that the idea of illegal and legal mushrooms is interesting, but to each their own. To me, I just like learning about mushrooms. I think it's really interesting to understand why mushrooms could be illegal and why they could be dangerous. That's why I make these videos on here, is to better understand the facets of mushrooms, where they live, what they look like, what they can do, benefits or otherwise. But at the end of the day, I do understand why some places have made these illegal, because they are considered very powerful drugs. At the end of the day, the forest doesn't really pick or choose what it grows. It just is what it is. Mushrooms have their whole livelihood underground. Mushrooms are organisms in and of themselves. They're part of the ecosystem. At the end of the day, there's only a few that humans ourselves can enjoy, apart from looking at them, of course. It is our job to respect biology and understand the boundaries of laws as well. Let me be clear about that. Whether you're hunting for mushrooms in the forest or just buying one of my mushroom trading cards, I hope this deep dive helped you learn a little bit more about mushrooms. I know that this research was very interesting for me. Don't forget to check out my mushroom club if you are at all interested. I have a couple of tiers that you can choose from. I send out physical things, so everything that you will get will be in the mail. All right, thank you guys. Stay whimsical and stay legal. I will see y'all in the next video. Bye. Look at the ponytails today. You can see the full length of my hair. It's long. Oh my gosh, you can see them.